Well, hi, everybody. I feel like it's been forever, even though it took me like a week to mentally recover from Elizabeth Bathory. Anyway, anybody remember this?
They jousted with blunted lances, but Montgomery's broke, and the pointed end went straight up into Henry's eye slit. He died 10 days later. Tell me, audience, which is more likely? One of Nostradamus' hundreds of prophecies coincidentally reflected one event in the future history of the world? Or there are much darker forces in this world than we realize? You tell me. You tell me.
Well, here we are, 5 years later in glorious HD. The king dead, a family shattered like the lance that stabbed him in the eyeball. What will happen next? Was Nostradamus right all along? Did the Illuminati with Naruto eyes orchestrate the entire thing? Oh, I bet you can't wait to find out the answer. Say, Catherine, why do you always wear that thing on your head?
My crown?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I use it to cover up my bald spot, but it just keeps getting bigger.
Oh my god, is that true? Like, historically?
No, it's an ad for Keeps. But what is true is that 2 out of 3 men are at risk of that very fate. Even you.
Oh no, whatever can I do?
Well, you're in luck. Keeps is a hair loss prevention service used by hundreds of thousands of men, and as long as you've still got hair, Keeps will keeps it on your head.
By the Lord, it's a miracle.
Best of all, they deliver straight to your door, and bester of all, their FDA-approved medication doesn't come with a brand name tax, so you get to Keeps more money in your wallet, too. Head to keeps.com/Jack Rackham to get 50% off your first order of hair loss treatment.
Thank you, Catherine de' Medici, one of the most influential women of the 16th century and suspected architect of the century's most violent religious massacres. I look forward to resisting your religious oppression with a healthy head of hair.
Burn in hell, heretic.
Okay, so early 1500s Italy. Catherine de' Medici is the only daughter of Lorenzo de' Medici, the guy for whom Machiavelli wrote that book that made him really famous and controversial and stuff. And then, her parents both died. So the Pope decides who gets to take care of her, gives her a duchy, then takes like 99% of it for himself, so she was just the Duchess of like one fort, but fair enough, she's a literal infant. He dies, Catherine bounces around a lot, almost spends the rest of her life in a convent until the Medici get thrown out of town, so instead, hey, she's married to a French prince named Henry. And his dad watches the consummation. They are 14. They are 14! 3 years later, Henry's older brother gets chilly playing tennis and falls over dead. Henry and Kat are the new heirs, and now all of Europe is watching them. But not in the bedroom, because that is a word I cannot say on YouTube, but it is very illegal. So, problem. The Valois dynasty, the people who've been doing all the Francing for the last 200 years, they're kinda running short on kids. It's 10 years since the wedding, and Catherine is coming up with bupkis. Well, my dear lady, it's clear you are not up to the task. I fear divorce may be on the horizon, but never fear. We're on your side here, and we've got just the remedies to repair your middling matrimony.
Oh, no, I think you're looking for my husband. His marital apparatus is a bit...
Now, dear, there's nothing to be embarrassed about, but you've got to face facts. I did get that courtesan pregnant after all.
Yes, but it's crooked.
And named my daughter, whom I fathered after my other mistress.
Point taken.
Now, your highness, you're going to want to apply this to your, source of life.
Is this cow dung?
Your highness, I am the foremost expert in women's health. It's called manure. To be fair, that particular anecdote I traced back to a book that itself points to another book where I can't seem to find it. It might be in this paper, but guess who doesn't have a subscription to the Canadian Journal of Urology? This guy. Thankfully, they got a real doctor in the form of the guy who invented physiology, and Henry and Catherine had 8 children together, meaning the future of the dynasty was secured for generations to come. And then everyone in her family started dying. June 30th, 1559, Henry II holds a celebration following peace with his neighbors, so all of his vassals return from their bloody campaigns to have a party where they all get on horses and try to stab each other. Henry gets in on the fun, he's having a great day decking dukes and trouncing counts, and he says, "Give me a real challenge. You, bodyguard, let's go, let's do this thing." "Sir, I've got to warn you, you might get hurt." "That's the fun part, come on, you pansy." So the two men take to the field. Ah! Do-over! And he died in a tragic accident. Or was it an accident? Nostradamus wrote a thing about lions and shields and fighting, and Henry's shield had a lion, and then he died. Whoa! It's just like when Nostradamus said, "The third toe will seem first," and then prophecy happened. There was a thing about Henry's kids too. Yeah, it said, here we go. 3 beautiful children are born. Ruin to the people when they are of age. What does that mean? Well, I'm glad you asked. Catherine had 3 sons that all became king, which is to say they all let her run the kingdom. Or at least they let her run the capital, because ruin to the people, France was on the brink of civil war. There were these folks called the Huguenots in France, and the old regime was not a fan. In fact, one could go as far as to say they were real haters. The law was pretty much, don't talk about Protestant ideas or we will massacre your city. We've done it before. Francis I, 1545. I'm serious, don't push me. But over a couple decades, like half the nobility had become Protestant, so yet now the monarchy was threatening people who actually had the power to fight back. Catherine realized this was a problem. Oh, by the way, Francis got sick and died, so his little brother Charlie is king now. So what Catherine decided to do, bless her heart, she put out an edict of tolerance and got everybody in a room to hash things out. Unfortunately, the plan was for the most fervent Catholic and Protestant leaders to find a halfway point between their ideologies and hodgepodge a new state religion, which failed in spectacular fashion. And then oopsie whoopsie, one of her dukes accidentally did a massacre. So began the French Wars of Religion, but Catherine didn't give up. The guy who sparked it got his comeuppance, and she managed to pull together a truce and send Protestants and Catholics against their real common enemy, the English. She put the king on a goodwill tour around the kingdom, she married her daughter to a Huguenot, she even asked the Ottomans, "Hey, what if we took all of our Protestants and gave them to you, Cat? It'll be great, they can live on your border and defend against the Habsburgs." Hello? Hello? Damn 1500 cell service. Well, with nothing seeming to work and tensions rising again, she started restricting the rights of Huguenots near the capital, and then she discovers there's a group of them plotting to kidnap her son while he's on tour. And, yeah, she suddenly got a whole lot less understanding. A Huguenot leader is shot in 1572, but narrowly survives. Some in town say Catherine might have done it herself, but either way, there's another war coming any day now. So on orders coming in some combination from the king and the queen mother, the royal army strikes first. They lock down Paris and massacre as many Huguenot leaders as they can find. So Charlie dies, somehow of natural causes. The next guy in line is his brother Henry, who's actually the king of Poland-Lithuania right now. Crazy, right? Imagine the world where those 2, or I guess 3 countries stayed connected. But as it happened, Henry jets off to France and never came back, so the Poles go, alright, guess we need to find a new king. But hey, Poland had a pretty sizable Protestant minority, and they're not on the brink of civil war. Maybe Henry learned a thing or two that can... Oh, except now the Catholics are also rebelling. Yeah, they thought the Huguenots had too many rights, so now the other half of France is also at war with the monarchy. The tensions in France are made worse with the conflict between Protestant England and Catholic Scotland boiling over with the death of Mary Queen of Scots. The people of Paris are throwing up barricades in the streets. Do you hear the people sing? Catherine obliges Henry, capitulate to the Catholic League's demands, and live to fight another day, for if he dies, she'll bury herself with him. But Henry sees a path forward, a light that will take him to salvation or ruin. He invited over one of the Catholic leaders and stabbed him to death at the foot of his bed. So Henry was assassinated 8 months later, but Catherine was already dead. The dynasty of Valois was finished, and the next man in line for the throne was a Huguenot. Oh boy, you better believe that's gonna be good. Well, see you in 5 years.